Right, my beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid. Welcome back to the channel. Two victories in a row. Let me give you guys my thoughts on the Oviedo match last night. This was, 3 points, 3 goals, but I think the scoreline is a little bit deceiving. I think we played a sort of a decent first half. But I think the second half was not great. In fact, it sort of deteriorated slowly by the minute. I wasn't very impressed in the second half. So I think the scoreline might be a little bit misleading, but I think overall it was kind of a satisfactory performance. Don't forget, we only had 2 weeks to prepare. I mean, other clubs have been preparing for a month. We had 2 weeks and 1 match prior to last night. So these things take time. But I think the most important takeaways from last night, believe it or not, were the lineup. I mean, the second I saw the lineup, it hit you over the head like a sledgehammer because it tells you everything you need to know about Xabi Alonso. When I saw the lineup, I was like, boom. It tells you everything you need to know about this manager. So I want to discuss some of those takeaways. We'll also talk about the Rodrigo situation briefly. And then, of course, I'll give you my thoughts on players and the match itself. So welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me as always. Lots to discuss. So let's get started. All right, my beloved Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let's talk about the match in Oviedo last night. Now, let's discuss the lineup. I think this is where a lot of the meat is on the bone. Now, the lineup, he came out, Xabi Alonso came out with this, with Courtois in goal, Carvajal as right back, Carreras as left back, Rudiger and Huijsen as center backs. In the middle of the pitch, he had Tchouaméni, Fede, and Arda. And then up front, he had Rodrigo on the left, Mastantuono on the right, and Kylian in the middle. Now, when I first saw the lineup, what are the first things that you notice just right off the bat? Okay, number one, you've got Vini on the bench and Rodrigo starting from the first minute. The exact opposite of what we've been seeing so far. Vini has started every match, has been playing quite poorly. Rodrigo has not gotten a single minute. That's the first thing that sort of hit you over the head. Secondly, Mastantuono starting already from the first minute, playing him up front on the right. But this guy just got off a plane, a little bit surprising from that standpoint. Another thing you noticed was Carvajal as starter in the right back position. This is a 33-year-old right back that just got over one of the worst injuries that you can possibly have in this sport. And he starts him over a much younger right back that you just brought in from Liverpool. Again, very interesting. And then, of course, we had Rudiger starting as center back after Militao did so in the previous match. Now, what kind of instinctively, what does this tell you? And I think that the message is pretty clear. Xabi Alonso is a manager that has pretty big balls. This is a very brave manager that knows what he wants. When you look at this lineup, the immediate takeaways are, okay, number one, you have to be informed to play. If you're not informed, you're not going to play. And if you play 2 bad games in a row, you're probably not going to get the third. And if you don't believe me, ask Trent, right? Or ask Vini. This seems to be as close to a pure meritocracy as we have seen in a while. Ancelotti had his clear favorites. It was obvious week after week. Not the case here. Takeaway number one, you have to be informed or you're not going to play. Number two, there's going to be a lot of rotating and you better get used to it. That message is crystal clear. I think we're all shocked at the amount of rotation, the timing of the rotation, the extent of the rotation. I've mentioned in previous videos that Xabi's style of play does require the players to run a lot. They're not quite there yet. They're still getting into the flow of the system. So we have to be careful judging too much too quickly. But I think that he is going to demand that they run a lot. So another clear takeaway is that there's going to be a lot of rotating on the squad, and you all better get used to it. Number three, I don't care what your name is and I don't care how old you are. Now, this is clear. You look at the lineup yesterday and the messaging is very clear. I don't care about your age or your name. We're going to play the player that is most informed, and whatever makes sense we will do. But he seems to be agnostic to names and age. Again, pushing this sort of meritocracy concept even further. Number four, he doesn't give a shit about the press. I mean, the lineup yesterday invites a lot of criticism, from a lot of different sides. You can make a lot of arguments in a lot of those selections. But it's obvious that Xavi does not care. He just does not care what the press thinks, what anyone thinks. He's going to do what he wants, and he has very clear ideas of what he wants. If there's another fifth takeaway, I'd probably say he likes Arda Güler a lot, because I can't believe how many minutes Arda is getting. But look, the second you see the lineup, you just know, oh my God, this says a lot about this manager. And I for one, am really happy, because I think this is what we needed as a club. Okay, now we have to discuss, before we talk about the match, the Rodrigo situation just briefly. Look, obviously, there's more going on behind the scenes. The idea, whether to play him or not, is not just 100% a sporting issue or discussion. There are obviously other factors in play. Now, where did this all begin? My impression is that, there are a few kind of undercurrents that we need to be aware of. Look, I think this stuff started a couple of years ago. There was an interview with Rodrigo a couple of years ago, and he was talking about Man City, and he was sort of allowing himself to be loved a little bit by Man City. He was sort of talking up how good the squad is, and that they're, the best squad in the world. I mean, just kind of things that he didn't mean anything negative by it, but it's just not stuff that Real Madrid enjoys hearing from its own players. And I just think kind of, slightly silly decision. But, that interview didn't go down particularly well. You also had an issue with Rodrigo that, Ancelotti constantly started him, I think overplayed him. But the days that Rodrigo wouldn't start, he seemed to have kind of a bad attitude about it, and it kind of projected. And a lot of the stuff you see on Real Madrid television, and just kind of his general demeanor, he just seemed a little bit bratty on the days that he wasn't starting. And I think it's something that we picked up and kind of perceived, although it wasn't very explicit. There was another issue was, his entourage, the people around Rodrigo. There was an article, when Mbappe was coming, and people were talking about the incredible Real Madrid attack, with Bellingham, Kylian, and Vini. And the article left out the R for Rodrigo. And Rodrigo's kind of entourage came to the rescue and started, saying, well, there should be an R in there. And Rodrigo is as big a part of this attack as anyone else. And if he's not appreciated here, he can go somewhere else. It was just kind of comments and suggestions, that weren't really particularly well received here. And it's not a big deal, but it's just things that people notice that maybe don't really like. And again, very subtle, but if you're kind of in this, you hear it and you pick up the vibes. Another thing that we have to be aware of is that, Rodrigo didn't play very well last year. And I know that all the headlines were about how Vini fell off a cliff, and Vini was so good the year prior, and last year it was terrible. But I mean, honestly, a lot of the same can be said about Rodrigo. Rodrigo did not have a good year last year, okay? And my uncle and I talked about it constantly. Ancelotti would play him week after week after week, no matter how poorly he played. And even on the left, which he didn't play very often, but he just did not play very well last year. And I think that's something that, Madridismo still has in the back of its head also. So I think, look, Rodrigo's a player that we love and appreciate. He's a magnificent player. He's just technically unbelievable. He's been critical for us in really key moments, and he's part of our history now. So Rodrigo's a player that we love and appreciate and brings a lot to the table. But I do think there's a possibility that he still might leave. I think that there's a little bit of bad blood between the management and the player and his entourage. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think the possibility of him leaving is still there. There aren't that many takers, but I think it's still a possibility. But anyway, I just wanted to address the Rodrigo situation before we discuss the match, because obviously that's on a lot of people's minds. Okay, in terms of the match itself, look, this was kind of... The first half was, decent, but it did, in many respects, reminded me a little bit of the Osasuna match, in the sense that you have plenty of the ball, plenty of possession, and you're pushing forward a lot, but you're just really struggling to break through the defense. Like, we're having a very hard time kind of breaking through low blocks. Now, traditionally, to get through a low block, an organized defense, you need very quick ball circulation, you need very quick passing, you need to do something a little bit surprising. So either very quick 1-2, give and go, or you need a 1v1, 1v2 to kind of, take defenders on and kind of break through the defense. It's a very hard thing to do when a defense is well organized. And I think we're just struggling to do it. So I had the same impression for big chunks of the first half yesterday. Lots of possession, but very imprecise up front, and just kind of unable to turn that into really crystal clear chances. Okay, another thing I noticed is that we were kind of attacking a lot more on the left than on the right, there could be a lot of different reasons for that. I don't know. I noticed that when Carreras goes forward, he tends to play much wider than Carvajal. I think, maybe he stretches the pitch a little bit more, and maybe that's one of the reasons we attacked more on the left. Carvajal, I think, tended to kind of drift to the interior a little bit more. I don't know, but whatever the case may be, we did seem to insist a little bit more on the left. Now, the goal finally came in the 37th minute, and this was, one of the reasons I really love this goal is that it's sort of, this is what happens when everybody does their job. First of all, you have Tchouaméni pressing high, anticipating that pass, and stealing the ball, managing to get his foot to the ball before the Oviedo player. But that awareness to press that high up, it was just wonderful. Tchouaméni had an incredible match. So you've got Tchouaméni doing that, then Arda picking up the ball, making a great little run, and putting in a wonderful pass to Kylian, who of course spins beautifully with one touch and finishes perfectly. So it was just a really great goal from every standpoint. Everybody doing their job perfectly. Tchouaméni stealing a ball, Arda Güler making the pass, and Kylian finishing it perfectly. It was really great. Now, after the goal, Oviedo didn't really push forward that much. The minutes after the goal didn't look that dissimilar to me. We still had most of the possession, but we're still a bit imprecise up front. One thing I would mention is that I think our defensive transition was a little bit slow at times. I don't know if you guys noticed that too. Okay, in the second half, I would say not dissimilar to the first, but as the minutes went by, I think we started to kind of lose steam. And it was pretty visible. We had a very active Franco Mastantuono who covered a huge amount of ground. This guy ran himself into the ground. But despite that, as the minutes went by, I think fatigue kicked in. We were less precise with the ball. We were pressing less aggressively. We were losing the ball more easily and having a harder time recovering it. Oviedo's possessions, by definition, got a little bit longer. So you did see a kind of deterioration in our play as the minutes went by. In the 62nd minute, Rodrigo and Mastantuono came off and gave way to Vini and Brahim. In the 73rd minute, you had the next change, which was Arda Güler, who came off for Gonzalo. In the 82nd minute, you had the 0-2, which was a great steal by Vini, a great pass, and just a great finish by Kylian. Kylian is really, really switched on. But again, great awareness by Vini to press high up on the pitch, to steal that ball, and to filter a wonderful pass to Kylian, who did the rest. In the 85th minute, you had Carvajal and Mbappe coming off. They gave way to Trent and Ceballos. I was very surprised to see Carvajal play 85 minutes. That is a lot to ask, considering his age and considering the injury he's coming off. I was a bit surprised, but I think he performed very well, all things considered. In the 92nd minute, just almost at the end of the match, you had the 0-3, which was another sloppy ball loss by Oviedo in a dangerous part of the pitch. And of course, a great finish by Vini, who just saw exactly where he needed to place the ball to get that through the defense and past the goalkeeper. So, my impression of the match is sort of what I'm describing. I think we played a good first half, slowed down significantly in the second. I think that the team still needs time to gel. It's very hard. You bring in a new manager and immediately you're starting a summer tournament in a different location, lots of travel, lots of new players, very disconcerting. In terms of being together as a group in one place and learning and practicing together, they really didn't have the sort of guideline 3 weeks that FIFA recommends. We had just over 2 weeks and only one match prior to last night. So there is a lot of improvement yet. And I think the players, even physically, are not quite in shape yet. So we have to be a little bit patient, but I do like what I see. I think a lot of the things that I'm seeing from Xavi are really encouraging. In terms of players, I'll give you guys my thoughts very quickly. Courtois is working a lot less this year than he did last year. I think we can all see that. He had two pretty good saves. Courtois is sort of non-existent until he becomes mission critical. He goes from completely non-existent to really critical in 1 second. But he had two very good saves last night. As a group, as a team, we are generally speaking, we're defending further away from goal. You can tell we're sort of, last year we played a low block so many minutes. It was just hard to watch. We're defending much further away from goal now. We're recovering the ball in much higher positions now. So I think that's noticeable. And like I say, it's giving Courtois a lot less work these days. Okay, Carreras. I think Carreras had a good first half. He slightly struggled in the second half. I think he had a bit of a hard time with Hassan. I think Hassan gave him, a battle. But I think since he's arrived, Carreras has given me really good vibes. I think he's skillful, technical, very quick, has a lot of physical depth, can play the 90 minutes, and run all 90 minutes. I think he's a good player technically on the ball. He likes to go forward. I think he combines pretty well with the other players going forward. So I think Carreras, overall as a player, I'm very satisfied with what I see. I think in terms of last night, he had a pretty good first half and then, slightly struggled in the second half. Okay, Dean Huijsen. Huijsen, it's funny because this is the first match where he looks human because it's the first match where he's made any mistakes because so far Huijsen has played almost perfectly every match. But yesterday we did see him, especially in the second half, lose the ball on a couple of occasions, make a couple of sloppy passes. He did look, a little bit, he looked a little bit, sloppier than on other occasions. Now, don't get me wrong. I think he played a good match, a very solid match. But we did see, a few kinks in the armor there, especially in the second half. I can attribute it to, I don't know, fatigue or, he's human. Overall, I'm very impressed with him. But I think last night he was sort of, not quite as spectacular as on other occasions. Okay, Rudiger I thought was okay. I think he did everything. He was just sort of solid and there. Didn't do anything particularly spectacular, but he was where he needed to be. I think played solid defensively. Nothing crazy, but I think played a solid match. He does still look a little bit slower to me than pre-injury, but hopefully that's something that will come back with time. Okay, Carvajal, obviously this is one of the headlines of the match. Carvajal really impressed me because playing 85 minutes again, this is not a young player coming off a tremendous injury, but I think he played very, very well, all things considered. I think in the longer sprints, he did look a touch slower to me than the pre-injury Carvajal. I don't know if I'm imagining that, if it's psychological, but I just did have that impression on some sprints that he was just a touch slower. But I think overall, played very well, all things considered. He has the experience, knows where to be on the pitch, and I think he combined quite well with Mastantuono, which is going to be important going forward. But I was surprised to see him start, to be honest. But I think this is kind of a heads up that we might have to get used to this. I was a little bit surprised, but Carvajal might get more minutes than I was expecting this year. But very good to see. Okay, Tchouaméni. I don't know what this guy is eating for breakfast these days. I thought Tchouaméni was fantastic. He's on probably his best spell of football since he arrived in Madrid. The last few games, Tchouaméni has been spectacular, almost flawless. He played another tremendous match in that pivot position, stealing balls, pressing the ball when he needed to, distributing the ball well, just a great presence all around. I think Tchouaméni is really coming into form, and it's great to see. I think Xabi Alonso is managing to get the best out of Tchouaméni, and it's really great to see. Okay, Fede played another incredibly solid match. Every match that Fede plays is sort of at least a 7 out of 10. Last night I'd give him again a 7. Now he's playing in a position that he's not as involved in the attack as he was before. So you don't see him up front as often as we used to. But he did, take a couple of shots from distance yesterday, which is something we'd love to see because that right foot of his is just pure gold. But I think he played a very solid match, especially defensively. Again, physically gives so much to the team. Maybe not quite as present going forward, but again, mission critical in the middle of the pitch. I think Fede was quite good. Okay, Arda Güler started, he started a little bit dozy, but got better as the minutes went by. As the minutes went by, I think Arda became much more involved in our play. circulating the ball very well. There was a lot of mobility, drifted very well from one place to the other, played on the right, sometimes drifted to the left. But I think Arda played a really solid match. Like I say, he's been getting tons of minutes lately. I think, generally speaking, I think has been quite good. So I'm happy to see that. I think he's trying to get the most out of Arda as well. But I think Arda sort of started slow, but ended up having a reasonably good game. Okay, Mastantuono, what we have to say about Franco, the thing that really stands out so far, we're getting to know him better as a player the more matches we watch, obviously. But I love his attitude. I mean, what you really see is this is a player that wants every single ball. He's so hungry to get the ball he loves to be involved in the flow of play. I don't know if you've noticed, like wherever the ball is circulating, he wants to be there. Even if it's just like a little tap and to pass it right back, but he just wants to be involved in the flow of play constantly. I think that attitude is contagious. I think it's something, that kind of high energy is just really good for the group. I think Mastantuono had a solid game. He didn't, he tried a few things that didn't work. He had a wonderful slalom run into the penalty box, where he was brought down, arguably could have been a penalty. Some of the other little tricks he tried didn't work, but the attitude is there, the skill is there, and I think he's going to bring so much to Real Madrid. I'm very excited about this kid, especially the attitude. I absolutely love. Okay, Rodrigo. Back to Rodrigo. Now, Rodrigo. Look, he started a bit slow. He lost a few balls in the first few minutes, but after about the 15th minute, I think he picked up his play, played a pretty good first half, taking people on. The 1v1 started to come back, and I think he started to have a big influence in the match. I think the last 30 minutes of the first half were very, very good. The second half, I think he sort of dropped off. He didn't seem very happy when he was subbed. He never does. I don't expect him to be. But we have to be honest. He wasn't exactly spectacular in the second half, so I don't think he can be that surprised. But I do think he gave us 30 excellent minutes in the first half. And again, we'll see what happens with Rodrigo. Okay, Kylian. What can we say? I think this is sort of prime Kylian Mbappe. This is the player that sort of terrorized the world for years at PSG. Unbelievable. This is a player of extraordinary quality and speed. His technique, especially his technique at speed. He's able to dribble and so well at incredible speeds in short spaces and in long distances. He's just such a quick player, but technically so gifted. And of course, he can finish like a killer. I think Kylian is in a fantastic moment. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the world this year. He looks to be in tip-top form, and I mean, I couldn't be happier for Kylian. Okay, in terms of the subs, Brahim, Vini, Gonzalo, I think Brahim was quite good, brought a lot of kind of common sense in our possession. I think Brahim played well, a couple of very critical passes that he made. Vini, I think, when he came in, I think the yellow card woke him up. He got a yellow card for diving in the box, sort of simulating a penalty. And once Vini got out of his own head and started to focus on the match, which I think was after that yellow card, he started to play a lot better. And of course was critical with an assist and a goal. I think he had a big impact on the game in the minutes that he played. Like I say, especially after the yellow card, he seemed to kind of wake up and focus on the football and not the nonsense. Gonzalo, I think, didn't really have a chance to shine up front, but I think he pressed and defended quite well. I think, again, Gonzalo's a very good team player. That's something I've noticed every time he's played. He's very aware and very much plays for the team. He's a player I like a lot. Okay, so look, those are my thoughts on the players so far. Look, I think I like what I see. I think that the trajectory is there. We're improving. Look, it's not going to be bells and whistles from the first minute. This will take a little bit of time for the players to adapt, to get into physical form. But I do like what I see from Xavi. This is a manager who's very aggressive, demands a lot from his players, who is not shy about, substituting players and making changes. And keeping everybody on their toes. And that's exactly what you need, especially with a squad like ours with so much talent. You need to keep them hungry and on their toes. I like what I see from Xabi Alonso so far. It's not perfect. Like I say, yesterday's match was not great. But I do like where we're going. And again, we have so much talent that even when we don't play particularly well, we can just find goals. We can find goals because we have so much individual skill. We can just pull one out of the hat. It seems, like whenever we need one. But anyway, I'm encouraged, cautiously optimistic so far. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comment section. But welcome back. Thanks for joining me as always. Love all you guys, and look forward to seeing you in the next video. And as always, and forever, a la Madrid.